I'd like to welcome you to the board meeting October 20th. We're all going to start off. I want to call to order and establish a quorum. So Kathleen, if you could do that, please. Okay, so can you take a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We will now take roll. Judith Mancy, DPM President.
Present.
Darlene Trulio Elliott, Vice President.
Present.
Maria Cadenas, MBA Secretary.
Present.
Carolyn McAloon, DPM.
Present.
Daniel Lee, DPM PhD.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. You do have a quorum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right now, do we have any public comments on items not on agenda? Note that the board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place this matter on the agenda for future meetings. So could we see if there is any of that right now?
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, we will have the instructions shortly on the screen. And if you would like to participate, simply click on the question mark that's inside of the square, and it's typically located bottom right corner of your WebEx screen. And in the text field that pops up, type in comment and send it to all panelists, and make sure you click that send button. You can also raise your hand by clicking on the hand outline that appears when you hover your cursor or mouse over your name. And for those that are calling in only, you can raise your hand by pressing *3 from your phone. So thank you. The instructions are now on the screen for you to review. We'll give it a moment to see if anyone would like to request public comment. Board President, I see no requests coming in. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're moving on to the review and possible approval of the June, of the last minutes of March 17th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Hi, Judy. This is Brian, the Executive Officer of P.
Yes, go for it.
It's going to be June 16th.
June 16th, sorry. I know.
2022.
Skipped one here. Okay.
Right.
All right, June 16th meetings. Has anyone had the possibility to read this, and would anyone like to make a motion to accept these or have any comments to change it?
Yes.
This is McAloon.
To
I
approve.
reviewed the minutes and recommend we accept them for approval.
This is Darlene Trujillo Elliott. I do have one change to the minute. I was not attending the meeting, and on the first one, it has me calling out the meeting. So I think that needs to be changed to yourself.
Noted.
Does everybody see that underneath one call to order of establish a quorum? I was absent from that meeting, but it has me calling out the meeting at 10:05.
Right.
So that's just the
Yes,
only
I
change.
see that typo.
Okay, and then other than that, I'm fine with everything else.
Okay, so we'll make that change, Kathleen. And with that change now, do I have a motion to addend the meeting minutes and approve them?
Yeah, motion.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
McAloon, second.
So just for clarity, for recording and everything, this is Brian again. That was Dr. Lee on the first, Carolyn
Yes.
McAloon on the second. Now, GD, you can go ahead to vote.
Okay.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. This is Brittany, legal counsel. I'd open it up for public comment before we take a vote.
Oh, that's right. Public comment.
So can we open this up for any public comment regarding this?
Yes, this is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions will be on the screen shortly. If you would like to participate, click on that question mark inside of the square, typically lower right corner of your WebEx screen. Type comment in the text field that appears and make sure you hit send. I'm sending it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name from the panelist panel, participants panel, I apologize, and click on the hand outline next to your name, or for those calling in, you can press *3 from your phone to raise your hand. I see no requests coming in. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, then next we're going to move on to update and possible action on PMBC's budget by Jennifer Tompkins from the DCA Budget Office. Jennifer, good morning.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did we take an actual vote on
Oh, sorry, you're
the
right.
adoption? Thank you.
One of those days. Okay.
I understand.
Okay, can I have a vote on the approval of the minutes of June 18th, is it? Yes.
16th.
16th?
Yeah.
Okay, Kathleen, you want to do that?
I'm sorry, I didn't mute myself. I don't know how that happened. I will take attendance now. Maria Cadenas. I'm sorry, I'm taking the minutes and the change from Elliott to Manzi as to who called those minutes, okay? So, Maria Cadenas.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Darlene Elliott.
Approved.
Daniel Lee.
Approve.
Carolyn McAloon.
I approve.
Judy Manzi.
Approve.
The motion passes.
Great. Thank you.
You're
All right.
welcome.
Now we're going to move on to our update and possible action on our budget by Jennifer Tompkins from DCA's Budget Office.
Hi, Elizabeth. This is Brian again. Do we have Jennifer on? Do you see her? I don't.
I think she was muted and she was saying she couldn't unmute.
This is Elizabeth. I just promoted Jennifer Tompkins.
Okay.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, I was listed as an attendee, so I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Great,
Yes,
thank you.
we can hear you.
Perfect. So good morning. Again, my name is Jennifer Tompkins, and I am a budget analyst with the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office. I would like to thank the board and executive staff for allowing me a few minutes to present the fund condition statement, revenues, and expenditures. My manager, Renee Milano, is also available. We will be available after the presentation to answer any budget-related questions. So go ahead and please refer to item 5. These are the financial documents I will be discussing today. They provide a lot of information on the board's budget, both revenue and expenditures. I would like to highlight some of the information and provide a little more clarity. On January 10th, the governor's budget was released, which provided updated budget numbers for the board. That includes incremental adjustments to the board's current year and budget year base budget, which was provided at the prior board meeting. So pages 1 through 10 of this document shows the board's 2021 to 2022 expenditures and revenues in detail. However, page 11 contains the board's fund condition statement, which is an overview of the overall health of the fund. So we read the fund condition statement top to bottom, then left to right. The left column is the past year. The board began 2020-2021 with an adjusted beginning balance of $572,000 based on actuals from the governor's budget galley. And the board collected approximately $1.3 million in revenue and spent approximately $1.3 million in expenditures. And the board ended, the board ended 2020-2021 with a $481,000 reserve balance, or about 4 months in reserve. Then this balance moves to the top of the fund condition and becomes the beginning balance for the next fiscal year. The months in reserve is the amount of time the board can continue normal operations without any incoming revenues. For 2021 to 2022 current year, based on fiscal month 13 actuals, the board received about $1.5 million in revenue. The budget office will continue to monitor revenues closely and report back to the board if any significant variances occur. The board expenditures were approximately $1.3 million based on the fiscal month 13 actual reports. Then in the last 3 columns and other columns to the right on the fund condition have 2022 to 23 or budget year. And we have 2023 to 24, which is budget year +1, and 2024 to 25, which is budget year +2 projections. And so those are all assumed realized, which would mean the board would expend to the full appropriation for those projections. And just a few things I would like to note about the fund condition statement. I would like to point out that for all fund condition statements, one of the main driving factors to expenditures and the incremental increase in future years is a result of personal service adjustments. These include general salary increases, as well as employee comp and retirement rate adjustments. The budget office includes an ongoing 3% increase to expenditures on the fund condition statement to account for these ongoing incremental adjustments. The budget office will continue to monitor the board's fund condition statement and keep the line of communication with the board's executive staff open for any future needs or expectations. And again, I want to thank the board and executive staff for inviting me to today's meeting, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for, thanks, Jennifer. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Tompkins regarding our budget? All right. And therefore, we're going to move on. No, do we open that to public comment or not?
It's up to you if you'd like to. Doesn't hurt to, but you don't have to.
Yes, let's open that and ask if anybody has any questions or have a comment regarding it.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, the instructions are on the screen for your reference. Simply click on that question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name and clicking on the hand outline. I do see individual identified as Dr. Michael Saff. Apologize if I mispronounced your last name. I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone. Please note that you do have a time limit of 3 minutes, and I'll give a 15-second warning. You have been unmuted, or Let me send the request again to unmute, and just make sure to hit the unmute me button once it. You're unmuted now.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Good to be back here with you all. Ms. Thompson, do you see any issues with 24 and 25 with the way the funds are going now?
Yeah, well, that's actually a great question. So, the fund condition statement, it shows the board spending their full appropriation. And historically, the board doesn't spend their full appropriation. So it is a very conservative projection. Therefore, we don't have any concerns immediately in the budget office. Usually the board reverts about 20% each year.
Thank you.
This is the moderator. No additional requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay, thank you. Now we will hear from our executive officer, Brian Asland, to receive and possible action on his executive office report.
Okay, just one question, Brittany, on the budget. Do we need to take any type of vote or anything, or just do everything at the end? I've seen it done both ways.
What type of action were you contemplating with the budget report?
And there's no action there, so I'm just making sure.
Yeah, in that case,
so I think we're good. Yeah. And then when we go to the executive officer's report, do we do each program, or can we do it all at the end?
You can do it all at the end. I mean, if you have specific action you wanted to take with respect to a particular program, I would recommend addressing that at the end of each program. But if you don't, then yeah, we can take public comment at the very end.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. Now I'm going to turn it over to the chair, Carolyn McAloon, Dr. Carolyn McAloon.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Am I being heard?
Yes, we can hear you, Carolyn.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good to be with you, even though we're not in person. It was nice seeing you all a few months ago. For the licensing program update, Andrea, could I ask you to present the report on our behalf?
Hi, good morning. Yes, I can do that. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so the following information is for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 21-22 between April 1st and June 30th. There were 26 newly licensed DPMs. There's currently 15 pending applications with 3 candidates that recently completed their package. And for fiscal year 21-22, PMBC had 19 applicants come from out of state, 36 were third-year residents from California, and 37 were third-year residents from an out-of-state program. Moving on to renewals, there were 264 renewals mailed with 228 licenses renewed in the fourth quarter. Next, for the residents, the resident academic year started on July 1st, 2022, and will end on June 30th, 2023. And PMBC currently has 42 first-year residents, 41 second-year residents, and 43 third-year residents, bringing the resident license total count to 126. Next, we have a Breeze update. BMO 1559 was passed and put into production in April. This put the letter of good standing transaction online for licensees that have or have had a resident license. So California residents can now request the letter of good standing and pay the fees electronically by submitting the application through their Breeze account. Next, we have a Part 3 update. The last Part 3 exam was administered on June 2nd, and there were 25 candidates that requested their score be sent to California. And of those candidates, 24 passed for a 96% pass rate. The next Part 3 exam will be held on December 1st, and candidates will need to register by November 18th. Any questions so far? Okay. Next, we have a discussion on the fellowships. Similar to PMBC, MBC, and OMBC do not require fellowships for their licensees. Their fellowships are approved by the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, and it's an additional form of training after doing their residency program. Attachment D.
If I may interrupt, so Andre,
sorry.
I'm just going to make a quick comment on that. So the reason why that information is included because this board had a question about what the other boards do about their fellowships, and this was the result of Andre's investigation to find out how they do it. Are there any questions about that information?
I have a quick question. So are these fellowships are approved by the Council on Graduate Medical Education, correct?
Yes.
In the other. Now, when you, do you know if there's fellowships that are out there, they're not approved necessarily, but like, is there this, some sort of, I guess, rule or quota or guideline of what makes a fellowship? And, you know, I'm just curious because, you know, in podiatry, there are some that are recognized, right? But there are also fellowships out there that are just, I don't know, out there. So I'm just curious as to if that's the same situation in general medicine. I don't know if you can even answer that question, but that was.
Sure. I don't know if they have, as far as for medical board, and I don't know what the process is for them, but it sounds like it's similar to, so I would go to the CPME website and I can go to a section where it shows me the list of approved fellowships.
Okay.
Sounds like they do that on the ACGME for their residencies as well.
Okay. I appreciate this information because you know, I don't know where this is going like in the future for California, but we should keep a close eye on which ones are actually in California that are approved, or is it, yeah, or recognized, I guess we should say. And you have that list, right? That was included in this, I see, or there's something that
not in the report, but if you go to the CPME website and at the very top, there's a tab that says fellowships, and you can pull down a list of approved fellowships. And they have other information on the approval process and stuff like that if you want to take a look.
So the approval process is, we'll look into that. So the Council on Graduate Medical Education, or is it the
CPME? Yeah, so cpme.org.
Okay, they're the ones that actually approve them.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're the same who approved the residencies.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So, Judy, I think one of the questions is for us is CPME does approve fellowships, but in our experience, there are other fellowships that might get approval for somewhere else, like ACFAS, or don't have approval at all and just exist rogue. I think, is that what your concern is? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's
okay.
the concern. And I just think we should be aware of it, because I do think they exist, and you know, whether it's good or bad, or you know, but that
right,
you know.
And so right now, currently, CPME, I'm just reflecting what we do for residencies of California. So currently, the residencies in California are approved by CPME, and the board sends out the questionnaires and reviews those, gets those back, and then we basically accept CPME's approval with the updated forms from the residencies each year. But we do not do that for fellowships currently. I'm not saying that we should, but is that something that you're thinking that you would suggest that we think about? Or just continue to observe the situation at this time?
I think we should observe it. I think there's a lot of discussion right now, as you know, with parity, as far as compare the fact that every podiatrist every resident who goes through training now in the country gets the same credential, and they're allowed to do the same scope that's allowed within their state that they have a license. Okay. So that's coming up now in question, saying that, you know what, the problem is not all these residency programs actually sufficiently train them in this broad scope, particularly in California, by the way, because our scope is pretty broad. So they're trying to, they're trying to get some sort of parity or uniformed discussion going about, what should or shouldn't be done about this, because the residency programs are so different. But so that's why, now you have this whole other level of, well, he did a fellowship. Well, it's, what is this fellowship? So as long as there's, I guess, a mechanism when we have a new licensee, particularly maybe from an out-of-state area that we're not particularly familiar with, what their scope of residency, allowed them to do, we should be aware of if they're saying, well, I also did a fellowship. I'd like to know, the depth of what these fellowships actually accomplish for the student. That's all. So I do think that as podiatry evolves, particularly with our scope, we have to keep an eye on this. Do you get what I'm talking about?
I think so, and I just trying to figure out what depth, being aware of this. Do we want a list of the California fellowships? Do we want to send them a questionnaire? I'm just not sure how in depth you want us to, or not, what your thoughts are on how we're observing this.
My thoughts are, at this point, we should just, maybe when we approve our yearly approval of our residency programs, we're aware of, has any new fellowship been added? The same ones kind of going along, just kind of keep a tab on it. That would be my recommendation.
So, Andrea, is it possible annually for you to include the CPMA approved fellowships on the report to the board?
That in California.
In California, yes. I'm sorry if I didn't say that. That's what I meant. The California, so that we can see that list on an annual basis. Is that possible?
Yeah, I can do that. Just a list of.
Yeah, just a list. Why don't we start with that? And I propose that we do it at the same time we look at the residencies.
Okay.
As far as about timing, and then perhaps, and just and simply going to the CPMA website and pulling off the California fellowships, and then comparing it to the year before, so we can see if there's anybody been deleted or added. And at this point, just have that informational at this point going forward. I think that would be appropriate for our suggestion of being observant at this point, without going any further at this time. But that will continue our awareness of the existence of fellowships and to see if there's any trends of them increasing or decreasing annually. I think my opinion is that would be a reasonable observation at this time, if that's agreeable to everybody else.
Yeah, I can do that right now. It looks like there's only one in California.
So how easy to track. So the one other possibility, Andrea, may I consider is looking at CPMA and then also looking at ACFAS for their fellowships. I propose to track both. We'll look at both of those, because I think those are the two most prominent organizations that are approving fellowships, if I'm not mistaken. There might be others, but if anyone knows of others that we should keep an eye on, any other organizations who are approving fellowships that are in California, I suppose we need to be aware of who is approving fellowships in California and what they are. And just have that information on an annual basis.
I mean, just the fact that, there's two separate organizations giving it a stamp of approval.
Right, and there might be more, right? There could be, and I don't know.
I mean,
but the other,
like the Wild West. Yeah.
But I think we would only be able to accept the ones by CPME.
I mean, it's not even a question of accepting them, because that's like
just being aware, more like being aware that
we don't really license them or permit them or anything. It's just that, it just seems strange. I mean, that's why I wanted to find out what does the DOs and the MDs do. And you're saying that it's GME that approves it, which makes so much more sense to me than anybody else approving them, because at least they usually have some sort of oversight. Like they go and run around and look at the residency programs, right? So,
CPME does that too for the fellowship, for the residencies.
But
and for the fellowships. It even said on the website, it shows when their next evaluation will be, how many positions they have,
Okay.
who accredited.
If I could chime in, I think I had my hands up for a while, but I wanted to help with the discussion. Is that okay?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. I don't see the hand on my screen where I'm sitting. Thank you.
So on my background, I was able to serve at the ACFAS Fellowship Committee for 6-7 years, 10 years total in the committee. So I understand the intricacies of fellowships. A few things I wanted to bring up to the board, and I appreciate all the discussion. And I think we did a little bit of the discussion last time. First, I think it's a terminology. CPME is the national approving body. So we can use the word approval coming from CPME. We should not use the word approval when it comes to other entities such as ACFAS. ACFAS cannot use the word approval. They use the word recognize fellowship, and they'll have a different track to go through the process of being recognized by the organization ACFAS. And I agree that there are others that there will be out there as well. CPME only is the one that has the national body accreditation for approval, just like our residencies. So the terminology has to be very tightly controlled, and I request our board to use that very carefully because it does have a lot of implications. As far as collecting a list, I'm very agreeable to that. But I'll tell you my concern about that. It's not just to have a list, it's because I'm concerned that our board may not have the knowledge of which in-training programs are available. It's just like residencies. I think it'll be important for our board, our medical board, to understand and know which in-training programs are happening within our state. As such, fellowships and fellows are in training. They are taking extra year of education. So there are a lot of repercussions when it comes to medical legal and affecting their practice once something happens, and our medical board will intervene in those things, and not knowing that they were quote unquote fellows of such organizations, whether they were recognized or approved. I think it'll be important for us to know for the future. That's all. But I think following some of those items in the future will be ideal. Thank you.
Daniel, I want to say thank you very much. I was not aware of the difference between the terms approving and recognize, and thank you for pointing that out and sharing that, because that was not something I had a personal awareness about. So thank you for clarity about that. And if I use those terms incorrectly or unintentionally, please don't hesitate to remind me if I'm not doing it correctly, because I didn't have that. It's not nuanced as you're sharing, but I didn't understand that difference. So thank you.
Right. So, Carolyn, that's my point that Daniel just said. It's a good idea to have to know what is going on here in the state, because if they're in fellowships in California, they're under our licensing auspice, I guess. But thank you very much for that information.
Yeah, so I do agree that at this point we should keep a list of the California fellowships approved by CPME, and if possible, any organization with the recognizing them, we should have that also, so that we know both approved and recognized fellowships in California to the best of our ability to keep just a list so that we know who they are and where they are. I think that's a good idea for now.
Okay.
Andrea, if you have any questions or concerns about making that list and maintaining list, I'd be happy to bounce it off of each other, and then we can submit it annually with the residency stuff.
No, I can do that. I can include the
cool.
The California one.
Just California, correct.
Okay.
I think that's our only purview at this point, the California one. But I mean, to your opportunities of the question about people coming from other places, I think that is a different story. But just this board being aware of what's in California, I think is our purview, at least to start, is my recommendation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it just is more information for us, what's going on in the state.
Yeah. Thank you. Did anyone else want to have any, those are all very helpful conversations. Thank you everyone for contributing. Does anyone else have any discussion regarding our fellowship conversation before moving on to our next item of the geographical representation of podiatrists in our state? Okay, thank you. Andrea, can you discuss what you found within and included in attachment D for us today?
So attachment D has the DPMs listed by California county. This was anyone with a status 20, so current license status. And as you can see, most of them are in Southern California, which is what I think I thought. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions or conversations about the distribution of DPMs by county? This is something that we'd ask Andrea to prepare for us to kind of give us an idea of where are the podiatrists versus where are, well, we don't have a cross-reference with, but I think it's still very helpful to see that the concentration, as Andrea said, if you look at Los Angeles County, Orange County, and San Diego County, that's where most of the podiatrists are. And, you know, certainly the Bay Area and then the rural counties, of course, have, and some don't have any at all. Some rural counties don't have any podiatrists.
This is Maria. First of all, thank you for doing the effort of putting the list together. I think while it confirms what we expected, right, in terms of concentration, but it does highlight, I think, gaps in service in the state. I'm not sure if there's any action we need to take with it, but it's just something to keep in mind, to be thoughtful about what does that mean for care, especially some of the, I'm looking at it just from my own knowledge, you have like Merced County or even Madera County with one, you know, they're predominantly rural communities, poor rural communities. And it's just, again, something to keep in mind as we look at the standard and level of care available to our community across the state.
Yeah, I think, Maria, you brought this point up at the last meeting, I think, too, that, you know, I don't know that it's the board's efforts to make it more aware of the need in these underserved populations, but it might be something that California, you know, Podiatric Medical Association might want to, I don't know, think about they could maybe think about some sort of recruitment program or just awareness program for the California podiatrists, something like that. But I think this is a very interesting list, and thanks for putting it together.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for putting it together too. I really like this, and I second Maria as well, because I think it's a good baseline data for a lot of us to know. In many arenas, I see multi-level involvement for this. It's the access of care, healthcare disparity, public health access, and knowing the count of our DPMs in certain regions can also help us use it as a cross-reference, as a baseline for enforcement data. And I think crossing over into our other committees for enforcement data and where a lot of the hits are coming from or the cases are coming from are also very helpful for us for public safety and public health. So thank you so much for putting this together.
You're welcome.
Andrea, is this something that we can also update annually? So we can also see trends, perhaps, if anything's, you know, if any counties are disappearing, they're, you know, like losing their providers or things like that. Is this something we can include annually in our to the board?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I think, like everyone says, it's, you know, it's informational. It may be helpful information and other things we might be considering or acting on. Not specifically acting on them, but informational to help guide us and perhaps other things that come across our purview. So if we could update this annually, that might be ongoing information that can be helpful to us in as it is shared with different responsibilities that we might have. Thank you for including that in this report.
And Carolyn, I just want to add, if we could actually maybe use this for public education, maybe in one of our articles, just to highlight kind of, again, where the need is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm right. I think this data can be used for, some other things we do, and that's a great point.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other comments about the information about where podiatrists practice in California? Thank you, Andrea. Okay, and the survey. You've been busy, Andrea.
Yes. I'm sorry, can I have to step away for just a quick second? So sorry. My apologies, somebody was at the window. Okay, so for attached E, we have the Healthcare Access and Information Survey. This was put into production at the end of August, and these are screenshots from the testing of this. This is a new survey that during renewal, if you go online to renew the license, you have to click into this survey before continuing on with the renewal. It's still a voluntary survey, but you would have to go in and click decline to state on all the questions, and then it lets you proceed to the renewal. So this has some of the questions, or all of the questions that are asked in that survey.
So this is Andrea, this is being used now since August?
Yeah, so the last week of August, it went into production.
Do you have any sense about how many of us are completing it? As it being optional, is pretty much everybody doing it? Not very many of us are doing it. Do you have a sense of that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many have.
Okay. Fair enough. Is it possible to let us know that at our future meeting? Just, how many of us are actually doing this voluntary survey? Like half of us, a third of us? I just think that would be helpful information to us analyze the data, like what percentage of people are doing it, to just kind of give us a sense of how valuable this data we're collecting is. If it's only 5 people, it has less value than if, 500 of us are doing it,
Right. I think by the next meeting, there'll be some more time for more information to hopefully get added in there.
Yeah. Right, exactly. I mean, it'll take a whole year, actually it'll take a whole 2-year cycle really to evaluate that for sure. So, basically once everybody renews and over the next 2 years, we'll have more robust information in that regard. Everything right now is it'll be too small a sample size until 2 years is what my expectation would be. Any questions for anyone about this survey on the renewal screen on our website?
No, but it looks great.
Okay, and then after that, we just have the 3-month timeline, and that concludes the licensing report.
Thank you, thank you.
Do we want to open this now for public comment? Elizabeth?
This is Brian. Judy, yeah, you can open it up for public comment.
I think we spoke about a lot of stuff in this particular section, so let's do that.
Okay.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on that question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field. Make sure it goes out to all panelists and hit send. You can raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name from the participants panel and click on the outline of a hand that appears. So I do have individual identified as Dr. Michael Sapp. I will send a request to unmute your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes. Give me just a moment. Request has been sent.
Great, thank you. You talked about approved and recognized fellowship programs. We had one in our neighborhood, and I realize there's one in Orange County too, at surgery centers that have a 1-year fellowship of graduate resident. They've graduated from a 3-year residency program, but feel they do not have enough surgery experience. And they come to the surgery center for 1 year, and it's under the auspices of a sports medicine fellowship. So I'm pretty sure they're not either approved or regulated, but I suspect there's more than one of these around. So we're almost going to have to ask for, you're almost going to have to ask for voluntary, people to voluntarily recognize their quote fellowships, end quote, even if they aren't official. Thanks.
This is the moderator. No
Thanks,
further. Apologize. This is the moderator. No further requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please. Okay, Carolyn, as far as the calendar at the end of your presentation here, do you have any comment that you need to make regarding this calendar?
I do not have any comment.
Okay, fine.
On the calendar.
All right, so, all right, great. All right, we're going to move on to the enforcement program report and receive a status update by Maria Cadenas.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Bethany from the team to go ahead and give the report on the committee's behalf.
Morning, this is Bethany DeAngelis, Enforcement Coordinator. Just want to let everybody know I've been having a lot of coughing fits this morning, and so I may have to pause a few times during my report. So I don't subject everybody to that, but I'll do my best to get through it. This report covers fiscal year 21-22, the fourth quarter from April 1st to June 30th, and also the entire year of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. I'm going to start with the statistics. And first, we'll cover attachment A, which is the complaint data. Fourth quarter complaint data has a total of 30 complaints received. That was a 36% increase compared to 1 year ago when 22 complaints were received. The average days to close or assign a case was 8 days, which is within the DCA target of 10 days. Attachment B covers the investigation data, both desk and field investigations. 32 desk investigations were assigned in the fourth quarter, a 10% increase over last year. 31 desk investigations were completed, which is a 24% increase over the prior year. Processing time increased by 6% with an average processing time of 52 days. Biofield investigations were assigned during the fourth quarter. It was a 150% increase from the 2 assigned the year before. 15 cases were completed, which was, again, a 150% increase from 7 cases completed the prior year. There was a 1% decrease in field investigation processing time, and field investigations took an average of 396 days to complete. And then for the case investigation times, which include both desk and field, the fourth quarter showed that the average days to complete were 211 days, a little above the DCA target of 125 days. This is pretty common though. I wanted to point your attention to a new feature of the Hubert reporting system that's used for Breeze data. And they have a breakdown now of investigations that were completed that had a referral to the Attorney General's office for disciplinary action, and the investigations completed that were not referred to the Attorney General's office. For the fourth quarter, this is the first quarter that I've seen this available, we had 4 complaints that were referred for discipline and 35 that were not. So this data can give us an idea moving forward of how many of our cases are actually moving forward for discipline. And then we have case investigation aging showing that of 39 complaints closed during Q4, 56% or 22 were closed within 90 days, 26% or 10 were closed between 91 days and 1 year, and 18% or 7 took longer than 1 year to close. Attachment C is our disciplinary data. We had 2 cases initiated during the Q4. That was a 60% decrease over the same period last year when 5 cases were initiated. 2 final orders went into effect compared to 3 the Q4 of the last fiscal year. Cases averaged 1,277 days to complete for a disciplinary case. That was a 28% increase over the 1,000-day average to complete 3 disciplinary cases in the prior year's Q4. I believe we've seen an increase in some of the case times due to COVID and obstructions within the legal system. I think that should be starting to alleviate, but for the last couple of years, that has been a thing. We had no citations issued during the Q4, and that's a 400% decrease for 4 citations issued in the prior year. No new probationers were added, but we had 2 successful completions of probation, and there were 7 licensees on probationary status at the end of the quarter. Attachment D shows a summary of all of the data of the complaint investigation and disciplinary. Total complaint intake increased by 29% over the last fiscal year. We received a total of 143 complaints compared to the 111 complaints received in fiscal year 2021. 143 complaints is closer to our average. I think we had a decrease again due to the COVID. Total investigations assigned increased by 21%, with 142 investigations assigned compared to 117 investigation assignments in 2021. The average days to complete investigations for the year were the 198 days, which was a 16% increase over the prior fiscal year. 12 new discipline cases were initiated through the Office of Attorney General for the year. It's a decrease of 20%. There were 15 cases initiated the year prior. 15 cases was pretty high for us, higher than usual. So we're getting closer to our average. 7 final orders were issued compared to 9 last year, which is a 22% decrease. And we had 2 accusations withdrawn, dismissed, or declined. And there were 3 the year prior. No citations were issued this year. That's all for attachment D. Attachment E is information on received directly from the Attorney General's office on cases that have been forwarded to them. This latest report shows information through August 26, 2022. We have seen some delays in the last couple of years in these cases, but the most aged case, which is quite up there, did finally complete in September and should be reflected in the next quarterly report and will show in the fiscal year 22-23 data. Again, because that case took so long to complete, it may really skew our data for next year, but we'll see at the end of the year after all the cases close. We currently have 12 plus active cases pending completion with the Attorney General's. I believe there's some that have not showed up on their report yet that have recently been forwarded this last quarter. And then moving on to attachment F. This attachment is provided annually. It shows the complaints received since the board implemented the continuing competence program back in January 1st, 1999. There was a decline for many years, and then I believe, in the more recent years, we've seen an increase. This could be due to ease of filing complaints, increased public awareness, possibly more patients. But we did see a decline during the pandemic, especially the first year. I imagine that is due to the decrease in patient care. Our data now is coming up closer to the past trends and averages. I don't know if anybody would like to ask questions as I go, or shall I wait till the very end of all of the statistics? Because now we're getting into beyond just the statistics of the enforcement data. I've got additional reports that aren't normally covered each quarter. Does anyone have any questions at this point before I move on?
I have one question. That one case that went on for a really long time and finally closed, does that cost us more money, the board, or does it matter the length of time? Or is that, you know what I'm saying? The longer it goes on, is it a more costly hit for the board?
It definitely can be, depending on the amount of time that is spent on the case, especially by the attorney staff. So this case is quite an expensive one. I don't know if we'll be able to see that money returned. Oftentimes, if it's a probation outcome, then we do get cost recovery, but we don't always get cost recovery if it's another, outcome.
Yeah, thanks. I think you can move on. I don't see anybody's hand raised unless someone has a question.
All right, I'm going to move on to attachment G then. So this is, again, another report that is provided once a year annually. And this shows the individuals that have been disciplined since fiscal year 13-14. So we've added the last year. It has various information, including the podiatric school attended, residency information, the type of discipline, their age, gender, years in practice at time of discipline, and other details. I have a hard time with the last column, determining if they're in solo practice, corporation, group, or hospital, as that's not data that we, insist that they provide to us. So I have to do kind of a Google search and make my best guess. I was able to determine that the data showed that the average age of a DPM at time of discipline is 56, with an average of 25 years in practice. I don't know if it just takes them that long before they get caught, or if they just start slacking, or what's going on, but that's what the data shows.
I think it reflects probably longer from your training time. The newer trained physicians, I think, are
that makes sense. I
think that's the difference. Not that it took them that long to get caught.
H does not have an attachment. This just has to do with the Dca Performance Measures. That is the online reporting tool available to the public. There's a web link available, allows individuals to search all the data by quarter or fiscal year and compare the data across and to other boards and bureaus. Right now, they have information through the third quarter, so our information is a little more up to date. That concludes the statistic portion. Does anyone have any further questions or discussion? Okay, I will then move on to the probation program update. I'm now able to get good reports for the enforcement payment tracking. And so the report showed that for the fourth quarter, we received $2,075.87 in cost recovery payments and $10,232.50 in probation monitoring payments, for a total of $12,308.37 for cost recovery in Q4. And then through a revenue report that I received through our administration analyst, Kathleen, it showed that we received $86,149 for the entire year. Averaging that over the prior 5 fiscal years, well, the average was $79,446, so we're a little bit above our last 5-year average. Any questions on probation and cost recovery? Okay, moving on to consultant and expert program update. Looks like somehow we got the numbering wrong here, but should be segment 3. I was able to schedule a consultant training finally for November 18th. And we have individuals that will be participating. I did want to update the board that this date may have to be pushed back a little bit. It's been a really challenging year for me. I've been sick for about a month and it's been putting me behind. And so there may be a chance if I can't get enough done this coming week that we may be looking at January or February, early next year for this training. We also haven't had a lot of response from attendees, so we might be able to get a better gauge on when people can be available for that training to get better participation as well.
When will you make the final decision on whether or not November 18th is going to happen? The reason why is I booked myself out that day so that I could attend as an observer about what the training is, so I'm not knowledgeable about that. And so I'm curious about how much lead we'll have that it won't happen so I can go back to seeing patients that day.
There's a really good chance it's not going to happen on November 18th and that I won't have everything prepared, unfortunately.
And do you know, when will you pull the trigger one way or the other?
Maybe we could just do it now. I probably am going to need to reschedule this training, so let's just decide to reschedule this training for early.
Because we need a day, we need a day to when you're going to decide whether or not we're going through with it or not. Right. So are you saying, so I hear you saying that as of today, you're not confident we have enough people for November 18th and you're going to postpone and reschedule this training?
Yes. I was unexpectedly sick for the past month and I'm behind. And so I'm not better yet. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit. So I think it'd be best to reschedule this training. I was trying to go for it.
I appreciate your pushing through and your efforts for that, but I also appreciate you, having awareness of that and calling the question early enough for us to make adjustments to it. So thank you for all of that.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say at this point, let's go ahead and cancel November's training, and we'll let you guys know when we're going to set up a couple of different dates as we spread it out. It's really hard to get everybody, convened. It was nice when we did it at the Western, right? Because everybody was pretty much there. So I would say at this point, for functionality and participation, we'll definitely send the messages out to everybody and have them, choose a couple of different dates. Does that sound okay, or?
Yeah, originally I hadn't consulted all of the consultants on the date. I just was consulting presenters. And so I think it'd be good to get their ability to attend just to make sure that we have their presence.
Great. Bethany, I appreciate it. I think, whenever we can get a date together, I think Carolyn's point is give us a few weeks notice if possible so that we can, plan our schedules around it. Because I too was planning to attend. Also, I don't know what's going on in Sacramento, but I don't know, it might be in that building, Brian. Everybody's kind of sick on your staff. So I don't know, you guys, you all need to get some rest.
I feel like it's been like this the entire time I've worked here.
It must be the building, I'm telling you.
Not just, our current staff, but prior staff.
Okay, so is that the end of your report?
We have one application for consultant, which is Dr. Zaff, our prior board member. Looks like I didn't get a sentence out of my other report about the reference checks, but we've got his documents attached for, I'm still referencing the committee. I didn't update this last segment since our committee report. Dr. Zaff has, obviously been respected member of the board for a number of years. He meets our requirements, and up to the board to determine whether to bring him on as a consultant or expert to serve the board again.
Okay, so do we make a motion for this?
Yes, you would make a motion for this.
Okay, is there any discussion about Dr. Zaff, or do we do this in a different spot?
You can do it here.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to accept the application. Do I have a second?
I would like to second
McAloon,
that.
second.
Who's the second?
McAloon.
Oh, go ahead, Michael.
All right, so Manzi's movement and McAloon is the second.
Any discussion? Okay. All right, you want to take a vote on it, Kathleen?
All righty.
Sorry to
Public
interrupt.
comment?
Yes,
Yeah.
ditto to what Brian said.
So go ahead, Dr. Manzi, and open it up for.
Yeah, let's open that up for public comment if anyone would like to comment on this.
This is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. Instructions are on the screen for your reference. If we would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand, hover your mouse or cursor over your name in the participants panel, and click on the outline of a hand that appears. I have no requests submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay.
So now it's time for a vote.
Yes. Can we have a vote?
Yes, yes, Dr. Manzi. We will now take the vote. Ms. Cadenas,
Approve.
Ms. Elliott,
Aye.
Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Dr. McAloon,
Approve.
Dr. Manzi.
Approve.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that report. And we're now moving on to now we're going to go on to legislation and possible action. Daniel Lee.
Hi, this is Daniel Lee. This is for the Legislative Regulatory Program Committee report. Kathleen, would you help us present this report?
Yes, Dr. Lee, thank you. Today's report will cover the entire 2002 session, and in the end, our one bill that we sent letters of support, AB 1704 by Chen, called Limited Podiatric Radiography Permits, was enrolled and signed by the governor at the end of last month. So that document in full is attached, as well as the analysis from the end of August, and as well as our letter of support. I'd like to turn this one issue, I think we're all familiar with what this is and what it entails. I do think there were some recent questions about it, and I don't know if, Brian, you would like to speak to this issue, or if anyone else here would like to address it. about 1704 and some responses to it to people out in the field.
Well, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Manzi. I think you have a question, and maybe Daniel Lee can help with an answer, and Carolyn with an answer as well. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Manzi.
Okay. So unfortunately, there's some wording in this bill that is exclusionary to podiatrists that practice in a hospital setting. I was not aware of this when we sent our letter of our support, or I would never have supported this bill. There does have to be, either this bill has to be amended or some other, it has to be amended because it doesn't just exclude the podiatrist in just a Kaiser such. I mean, this is Sutter, this is Palo Alto Medical Foundations, any podiatrists that the way they define the podiatric office excluded anybody who practices in a setting within a medical, within a hospital or a medical center setting. So I don't know how we go about doing that. But I'm totally opposed to this bill and the way it's written. And I think as the board has to send some sort of amendment or message to address this, because it doesn't include everyone that practices podiatry in the state of California.
Yeah, this is Daniel Lee. I agree with that. I'm just wondering why we as a board have just found out about the language, how this was going to be adopted. We're not the carriers of the bill, so is there any history as to why the sequence of events turned out this way?
Well, I mean, you were at those meetings. I was at those meetings. This language wasn't in it then. I don't know who in the end put that language in it. That wasn't even how it was presented to us when they came to the board and said, would you support this, a measure that would allow podiatrists in solo practice offices to actually, get this permit? And of course we would, but not to the exclusion of everybody else.
Right. So I think the key question first is to gather information, reach out to CPMA and their legislative advocate to get the information of what's the deal. Why did this come about? So that we have more information in deciding how we want to move forward. I think we do need to inquire about what happened and why it happened, and under what stakeholders requested that change, or why did they have to make that change, or anything like. I think we need all that information before we know how to move forward. We need to know why.
I want to know when this language.
Right. Yeah.
Who on
Where,
the board?
when, how, why, all that stuff. We need to inquire. I think before writing any letters or anything, we need to gather that information.
Well, I do think they should be put on notice that we are very displeased with what happened here. I mean, I think for sure CPMA should know. And because they're the who's this is Chen's bill. Who is this? Who wrote? You know what I'm saying? Whose bill is this?
Yeah. Well, it's Chen's bill, but what I do know is that it's primarily organized by CPMA and our legislative advocate, and Chen was the carrier.
Right. And this is Brian. I'll work with CPMA and write up a historical event, what happened here, and work with Mr. Ryan Spencer. And I remember when our Joe Chen, our last attorney, and myself worked on this bill in helping craft the original language, but not this amended language. So I'll have to go back to my archives and find out, but I'll work with them and we'll get some historical sequences going on.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. I think that'll be very helpful, especially since, as I recall from the genesis of this bill, we aim to work closely with CPMA and their efforts to help some of the practitioners who were in need for limited radiography. So hopefully we can shed more light as to what happened to the historical information and the changes in the language. But thank you for doing that.
But Brian, my question is, who wrote this language? I mean, is this coming from the radiology board, or is this coming?
I think it's a combination of both. I think Joe and I started out in the very beginning supporting CPMA to craft some language. And I think through it, CPMA crafted their language. So yeah, as soon as we were kind of taken out of it, because at one point it was going to drop in our lap. And I think RHB, Public Health, said no, and they wanted control of it. But yeah, let me look at the timeline on this and see what we got.
I would suggest, though, at the least that CPMA be aware, like a letter from the board goes to CPMA and saying, listen, we have a problem with this. We have a problem with this language. We're very disappointed that this bill got signed the way it is, and that we're looking into it. I mean, I don't want this to sound, oh, yeah, go on the back burner. I think that at today's board meeting, we should send a letter, officially notify them that we're aware of this problem and it's, something we need to deal with.
Yeah, I believe it was back in August when this was amended. And I think CPMA did send that language to Joe and I. But we didn't have a committee meeting. We didn't have a board meeting. So it was, it was going through with this amendment. So, yeah, so let me do some research on this and I'll work with CPMA.
And I agree with Madam President. One thing I would emphasize on our medical board response will be maybe highlight some key terms such as exclusion, because it appears from the wording that there is a huge segment of DPMs who work in medical centers that are excluded. And the whole point of this bill was not to have any exclusion, was mainly for addressing a need in limited radiography and medical assistant and teaching and education and so forth. So almost feels like it had a different turn towards the end. So we just want to make sure we have that kind of response to CPMA so that they understand that this is becoming an action of exclusion. That's just my comment.
Okay.
I agree, Daniel, and Brian. I even if it can't get resolved in overnight, obviously it can't. But I just really want them on notice that this is an issue.
Okay.
All right. Now, do you want to open this at this point for public comment or not?
Yes, please do. If there's any public out there that would like to comment on this.
Okay, could you please open this for public comment?
Yes, this is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field and send it to all panelists. You can raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name in the participants panel. I do have an individual identified as Heather McGuire who would like to make a comment. Heather, I'm going to send a request to unmute your microphone. You're unmuted. I sent another request to unmute your microphone. Heather, you are now unmuted.
Hi, my name is Heather McGuire. I'm actually a member at large on the board of directors for the California Podiatric Medical Association. I wanted to just give a brief overview of the changes with the language, and I would love to be able to set up a teleconference to discuss this with members of your board. In late August, the California Department of Public Health made the mandated changes to the language of the bill. So this was not a choice CPMA wanted, and CPMA pushed back on the changes with public health. However, the lobbyist, Ryan Spencer, was told at that time that they would not be amenable to any sort of removal of that language. So it came down to passage of the bill that would at least allow doctors in their private practices to allow medical assistants a pathway to education and training. So that was how the bill went forward. And from what I understand from Mr. Spencer, that information was submitted to Mr. Naslin to review in August. So I can help answer any additional questions if you need anything addressed.
So Heather, how you doing? It's nice to hear your voice. I have a question. So when they saw this amendment that the Board of Health was issuing, what did no one see the exclusionary particular language in it? And did it not, honestly, this, if you really read that, this could actually put a lot of current situations at jeopardy to ever have an x-ray taken with one of those x-ray machines that's just for the lower extremity. So
we've got two upper board members who obviously both work for Kaiser, and we've got a lot of board members who work for large medical groups. The goal of the original bill had been to try to help fill a gap for private practitioners who are either sending people out for their own x-rays or having to take time away from their practice because they can't train their medical assistant to do it. The discussion with the other members and the people who were working on this from a legislative issue was that in a lot of those bigger healthcare settings like a KP, you guys have certified x-ray technicians who are generally taking those x-rays. It's not the podiatrist who's actually taking the x-rays. And this is different than the fluoroscopy side of things. And so, these bigger medical groups tend to employ certified x-ray techs themselves, where a private practice may not have the ability to hire that specifically.
Yeah, I understand that, but also you have to realize that as Kaiser, Sutter, a bunch of these places have satellites, right? And so it's a setting where they don't have a full, x-ray tech, and they're not taking x-rays of, every part of the body, maybe they're just taking limited ones. So like, we have one up here. So basically now you're saying, well, now you have to you can't train one of these, MAs like the solo practitioner can. And you can't oversee this because that's not even considered a solo podiatry office. So it's really a problem, and medical legally, it's really a problem. So honestly, I'm ready to say that, I don't know that you can take our support letter down, or, kind of, I don't know what we're supposed to do next for action if you want the truth, but we have to.
Yeah, because at this point the bill's passed, right? So
right. So that's
meeting and kind of figure out how this is an issue. Chris Niagu was the first person to bring that to any of our attention from an issue from a satellite perspective on Saturday. So I know that's kind of what started this chain of events with discussions. And I really think we need to sit down and have that information so then we can go back to the radiology board and kind of have that as a further discussion.
So my question though is it the radiology board that's going to be able to do something about this, or is, like you said, it was the public health, or was it the radiology board that put this exclusion?
It was public health. It was public health. Yeah. And so, but there is a meeting, I believe, at the end of the month with radiology, and so that's been, I think, the discussion that we need to have. So again, prior to Saturday, from a comment perspective, we had not heard from any of these medical organizations in regards to the satellite offices being somewhere where you guys aren't using x-ray, not you personally, but just these larger group settings. And so, the focus had been on kind of these smaller offices. And so we now need to figure out that there's obviously large medical organizations who in certain reality situations function like smaller practices or small offices. So how do we solve that problem?
Right. And, it was brought to my attention as soon as the bill was passed, medical legal from my Kaiser facility contacted us immediately and said, look at this, you're all been excluded from this. So, I mean, it's an issue. So, okay, so I'm glad that CPMA is aware of this and that the radiology board now needs to be approached. They're not the easiest people on earth to work with. But I think that it's time to move forward on this. And like I said, I think though, from a board standpoint, just to have it all officially acknowledged in writing, we need to send something to them, you know, that reflects this problem and that we're aware of it.
And Dr. Manzi, and again, maybe we need legal to address this, but is there a way to form an ad hoc committee that can just specifically deal with this issue since it is very time sensitive?
That's not a bad idea.
This is Brittany Ng. I'm not specifically familiar with the process for this. Brian, has this been done before?
Not that I've seen, no. But I do know that we're going to have a working group with RHB, Public Health. And, you know, maybe we could start talking there and see what we can do. Yeah, I'm just not sure if we can go re-amend a signed bill at this point, unless we maybe drop a new bill. And yeah, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Okay. Heather, thank you for your comments, and it's nice to see you as a participant. Do we have any other participants that would like to make a comment?
This is the moderator. No further requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay, so I'm going to propose that Brian gets back to me about, you know, how we want to move forward with this. But I do still think that I know that CPMA is aware of our concern, but maybe we should make them and the radiology board aware of it as well in writing. Does anyone agree or disagree with this?
I do agree, but I do, because we are in the middle of changing officers, and I do, again, we need area experts who understand this firsthand, trying to figure out how we can have some type of ad hoc committee that again I know we can't challenge the bill that's already signed, but look for solutions to, again, maybe attach ourselves to another bill that we can kind of ratify some of these changes.
Okay. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds fine. I can work with you and Daniel and Carolyn, because you guys are in the profession, and see what kind of discussions we can have. Maybe we will, in the next week or so, have a phone conversation with Mr. Ryan Spencer and see what our avenues are going to be here.
Okay, perfect. That would be a good way to start the response.
Brian, I just wanted to remind you that you'll want to keep it to 2 board members.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've talked to them individually. Yeah, but we'll find out probably Judy and Daniel, unless Carolyn wants to jump in, then we'll figure something out. But we can have one-on-one conversations.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, Kathleen, I'm going to put it back to you now to finish out this section.
Okay, so there are, in finishing 1704, there's no motion, but I understand there's a lot to do and the minutes will reflect your discussion. Okay, so 1704, we're done with that. The other thing in our report that's been pending for a long time, which I really think we're going to see completed, is in the regulatory matter of disciplinary guidelines. So DCA's attorneys have been fantastic. A lot of them have reviewed our proposals. We plan to bring this back to the board in March with the actual language and then present it to the Office of Administrative Law. So Bethany's done a lot, and so has Brian, so have all of our lawyers. And I'm just trying to let you know that we can expect to have something to read. It might be a little bit burdensome, but we will be making the decisions short of some other distraction at the next board meeting, probably in March of 23. And it took us a while, but it's about time. So I think we'll be done. Does anyone have any questions about disciplinary guidelines? I mean, just this is short for people that haven't been here. A few years back, there was a requirement that we adopt certain guidelines. And we haven't been successful before any of us were here, Brian and I mean, you know, in terms of regulation. We had Misha, we had Jim, we had Jason. We've never been able to get this to the point to present to Office of Administrative Law successfully passed. So that's what we expect to do in 23. We're using a very old guideline in how to discipline our cases. Thank goodness we don't have many. So this hasn't really created a problem. But we'd like to be current with the obligations we have in the future. So we expect you see that PMBC will have updated disciplinary guidelines successfully submitted in 23.
Okay, thank you. I hate to bring this up again, but I'm sorry. I do have to bring up one more thing with 1704, Bill. I do want to make a motion, and because I think it's important that the board have something, some response to this that's official as opposed to just a discussion. So I do think I would like to make a motion that we send a letter or notification to CPMA and to the radiology board from our board stating that we discussed the language in 1704, and like Daniel pointed out, it's exclusionary, and that we intend to take, we can no longer support the bill as it's written, and that we are going to try to amend this. I mean, I just think they need to be on notice that we did take an action.
Madam President, I think you mean CPMA and CDPH.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
I just have a question, Judy. Did you want to have a conversation with CPMA and their legislative advocate first? I'm not opposed to what you're saying, but I just want to make sure that our efforts are my concern is making sure that efforts are coordinated and that we are happy to announce publicly about our concerns, but making sure that we don't unintentionally undermine any pathway or plan that's getting moving forward.
Right. Obviously, I'm not aware of that yet, right? And of course,
right. So that's why I was going to propose having that conversation first that Brian suggested, and then
the problem is
vote on taking action.
The problem, Caroline, is we're not going to meet again for another quarter, and I think that a response, the bill passed. And so right. I think that this is and honestly, I'm not trying to do this in a, aggressive way. I'm just trying to put it in the record that, we're going to have ongoing conversations or however you want to word it. But I think it has to be that I do think something should be sent to them.
Right. And I'm not opposed to that. I was just concerned about, expressing concern about the timing. Just to and have it be a coordinated effort to achieve our goal. I just want to make sure that the strategy doesn't undermine our goal. Not that we shouldn't not do what you're saying, but just about the timing and working and making and being collaborative.
Well, I think we can send them a letter that is collaborative, but is also recognizing that it's exclusionary. And that we're aware of it, and I'm sure they want to work with us to make it not exclusionary or make it inclusionary. Daniel, help me here. Do you think this is reasonable?
No, I think your motion. I was gonna approve. I agree with your motion. So I think it's a motion that our medical board should take as as logically, because it's not something that came through to us in a logical way, and it didn't come to us to the way that we have supported. So I think it's very logical for Madam President to present this motion. So I agree with that.
And thank you. And, you know, the other thing, Carolyn, was this came to my knowledge outside of, you know, like the board or anything like that. Like this is, you know, people that.
Yeah, people say, hey, I know you're on the board. Did you hear about this? Sure.
Oh, people, yeah, like, hey, you're on the board. What's about, you know, how can you be passing this thing or be supporting this thing? It's like, yeah, you're right. So, okay, so why don't you
I get that point completely. And I don't think there's anything wrong with sending a letter. I was just talking about making sure that we're, you know, within the, you know, making sure that we actually accomplish what we want to do.
All right. So if someone wants to help me with the language of this motion that would be in this letter, I'd appreciate it.
I might propose that you'd be moving to delegate to the executive officer to research and send a letter, I think you said, to CPMA and the Board of Radiology regarding AB 1704 and the concerns that were expressed during the meeting today.
Great. So I want to make that motion, and would anyone that we send that letter, just like Brittany said. Do I have a second?
Second, Daniel Lee.
Okay, Kathleen, any more discussion?
Yeah, I would open it up for discussion and public comment.
Okay. Can we please open this up for public comment?
Yes, this is the moderator. The Q&A is now open. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. If you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square and type comment in the text field and send it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor mouse over your name in the participants panel and clicking on the hand outline. Instructions are on the screen. No requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. Okay. So I have a second on this motion. So Kathleen, can we take a vote?
Yes. We will now take the vote on Dr. Manzi's motion, seconded by Dr. Lee, that we send a letter to CPMA and CDPH and delegate to the EO to research and provide the exact language, but to outline the comments at the meeting today regarding the last minute changes to the bill, which made it exclusionary. I think that summarizes your motion, Dr. Manzi. And we will now take the vote. Dr. Manzi.
Aye.
Ms. Elliott.
Aye.
Ms. Cadenas.
Aye.
Dr. McAloon.
Aye.
Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Kathleen, are you done with legislation?
That concludes the legislative update report, yes.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to public education with an update and possible action. Darlene, it's up to you now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to go ahead and hand this over to Kathleen Cooper, who has done an amazing job on our public education outreach.
Thank you, Darlene. I would just like to talk a minute about the newsletter footnotes, which I consider to be a success. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for your contributions, and for everyone, staff and board members as well throughout the years. But we're going to be doing this every year. So if board members would like to summarize anything about this last year, please submit something before the end of the year. The policy is basically that it's not controversial, is not debatable issues, but more informative. And we voted on their policy. So if anybody has something that they would like to contribute for this year, we can always put in educational articles about taking care of your feet, which we did last time, and I think that was successful. In some ways, the footnote creation is, I believe, more important than even the things we provide on our website or Facebook or Twitter, because these are gathering every year in one spot on our website, and we can go back and look, oh, when did that happen? In 18 or 19 or 2021, et cetera. So it's kind of like we're doing a really nice job of an annual report, but not to the government that we create every year, but to our stakeholders, our licensees, and to all the entities involved in podiatric medicine. So I encourage you all to, even just a short paragraph, if you like. We could do a feature if the board would vote now to have participation on feature our board members in the newsletter. I've thought about that before, you know, could just kind of like we do on the website, feature something you'd like to say, but that would require full participation. I would not want to just put up 4 of 5 or, you know, 3 of 5. We can outline your roles, what you're feeling about this board and our progress, or we can go in another direction and just keep doing what we do, which is basically requesting experts and consultants, informing people on any licensing updates, any legislation that was passed. And I just want to say, I think the most successful is the kind of thing that Dr. Lee did, which got a great response, which is to get input from students, residents, you know, people involved in this field. So I'll just leave it at that. But as far as footnotes, if there's any comments, we will be producing the next issue at the end of the year. So although we're hoping to get articles by maybe the Thanksgiving holiday, we certainly will not be publishing until the beginning of the year. So anything that came in before the end of the year would be accepted, and maybe even a few weeks into the beginning year if that was the good time for you all to submit.
Hi, Kathleen. This is Daniel Lee. I was just going to ask that if we still have a residents corner where they can write something. I have resident groups that are very interested in writing something for our medical board. So if it's still available, we can have something submitted.
Yes, we definitely have space.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be great to have a residence corner. Now, this publication, we put it on the front page, but if we're going to have a corner, we'll probably stick it somewhere. You know, we try to have enforcement and licensing right up front, letting people know what that is. And then some kind of interesting article. We've had students from Western, we've had articles from the APMA, et cetera, usually like the inner pages, informative. And then in the back, if we are going to get residency submissions every year, we could have the residency corner, student corner, who knows? We could start developing. When Dr. Harkness left Western, we lost a little bit of a connection there, and we've never connected as well to the school over in Oakland, you know, to get the students to stay current with us. But if anybody has those connections, please let me know. I'll follow up on them and see if the schools are interested in helping us get submissions. So that's
I know both deans for the Western and the California. I may be able to help you with that.
okay. They have to be enthusiastic because I know those students are very busy, but in the past they just were delighted with their publication, having, you know, their words published in their regulatory journal. So, you know, once they get it done, they're very happy. Okay, so that's it for the hard newsletter. And of course, it's digital too. Let me move on. We were talking about statistics before, and I would just like to mention that there's going to be a new Google Analytics available soon. This is good enough for our understanding, I believe, but I may be even able to do a little bit better in like telling you a little bit more data. But if you look at our website, and the visits that we get, what I did is I did some analytics, and there's 3, I think it covers pretty much, you could see between July of 21 and the end of June or first day of July 22, we had a lot of consistent numbers just as the year before. So from 2021. And we tend to get about 15,000 people a year. So if you look at the consistency of that, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, it's very consistent, but you can see certain peaks and valleys, and it seems like it follows through with the profession cycle. So July 1st, you know, when everything happens in medical world in terms of your insurance and your professional liability, where you're going to end up for the year if you're a resident, et cetera, there's a lot of activity on our website. And also, for some reason, at the end of the year, starting in January, there's a lot of activity on the website. But other than that, it's very consistent. And if you divide it up, it's about 13,000 a month, or about 45 visits a day. And most of those visits are short visits. Some of them, we have a high what they call bounce rate, meaning someone comes and goes without doing anything. But the other half of the people that do come and go, that don't go, they are getting their license done, they're paying their fees. So it's just, we've really stepped up in using that website for everyone's sake and saving money for them and us. But the average person looks at a few pages and they don't stay that long. The users are mostly English speakers from Great Britain, Canada. We have some from Australia, but mostly, the areas where podiatry is strong as a profession. I don't know if you have any questions about those analytics, but I think they're pretty clear. If anyone does, let me know. And, I could try to find more data, but I really believe we're getting a lot of visits from our own potential licensees for, new submissions to our licensing area, but also people are checking what we put up there, because there's a whole half that is not doing licensing. Our website, I think, is really useful in helping us do our administrative work too. We just put a message out and it really seems to get out there. We would like to have more emails for people, so when we send out notices, we know we're reaching them, but that's a whole nother issue. They have to respond when we send the request, and sometimes we don't get that back. So we're not really up to a large percentage of our licensees being available through their email for notices. I don't know if anyone has any ideas how to improve that, but that's where we are with our listserv. We call that the listserv. However, when we do send something out, they do come to the website, as you can see. So any comments on those analytics?
Those analytics are great. And my thing is, don't we have their emails when they renew their licenses or not?
For us to use that, the policy is, or the way Breeze works, it's our program that we use, they have to confirm it. So we can get it in an application. Then we're not really the one they send it back to DCA. We get the information, but before we can put it on our listserv, they have to say, yes, I do want to receive emails from you. And a lot of people don't respond to that final request there. And maybe Andrea could pipe up here as to what she knows, but that's the way it's been explained to me. So we have it, but we can't use it unless they confirm it. There's just no way for us to put them on the list.
So they do have to have an email to register for Breeze, but we don't have access to what that email is. The listserv is separate. That's on our website. You have to go click on it and say, yeah, I want to get these updates. Mm-hmm. And then you put in the email that you want to use, and it sends a confirmation to that email saying, click this link to confirm that you want to be added, and then you get added to the listserv. So it's two separate.
So is there any way, like on the website, when they click on, there'd be a banner that could pop up and say something like, hey, did you know you can get, we could communicate with you, or instant updates or whatever, just confirm here your email, something like that. Something just draws attention to the fact that
we did add a button to the website towards the top of the page where you can do a license search, where it says subscribe to PMBC alerts. That used to be towards the bottom of the page, but now it's more on the top of the website. And what I do when I approve initial applications, I send an email with the congratulations letter that has their license number. And in the email, I say, I've added you to this listserv, but you have to click into this. You have to click into it to confirm your identity to receive updates from the board.
Okay, so my suggestion is at the next Western this spring, we have a table and you have your computer set up and you try to talk to as many people as walk by that table as possible and have them click the button. It's not a bad idea.
Well, they would have to do that from their email. So we can, from our website, add them to it, but then they have to go into the email and click it and say, yes.
They all have smartphones. You can make them stand right there and do it.
That's right. We could.
And you can
Maybe.
give them like, you know, something if they did it or something.
We could have a way to create a QR code, and that would activate it through their phone.
Perfect. I love that idea.
Yeah, I love that idea too.
Okay, we'll look into those things to increase that and see if we can get some more people next year. Other than that, that concludes my report.
Okay. Well, thank you. And thanks for all your work on that. And anybody, I want to reiterate, anybody who out there, one of our attendees or anyone who wants to contribute to our footnotes web portion of our website, we'd really appreciate it. And we would love to hear from everyone. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next part of our agenda here. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be discussion and action of board officers, elections, and committee appointments. So,
I just want to say one thing before we start this is hats off to Judy. She did this for 3 years. She went through sunset. She went through the pandemic. And she's always been very, very responsible, even when she's out of the country on vacation or something like that. If there's an issue, you know, working with her. So it's an honor and a privilege to be for you to do what you did. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's effort. This is a labor of love, and my hat's off to the entire board. It was quite an experience, but it's been my pleasure. And so now it's my pleasure to have another person be the president of the board. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about our new, you know, how we're going to proceed with electing our new officers, and we'll go through with discussion and appoint board members to our committees. So, does anyone want to propose a slate of officers? And we can start with president. We can take nominations from anyone, everyone. If nobody wants to, I can make one. Okay. All right. So I would propose, I'd like to nominate Carolyn to be the next president, if anyone has any discussion regarding that. If Carolyn isn't opposed to it.
I'm not opposed. I will not refuse the nomination.
Great. All right. Do I have a second for the nomination? Do I need a second for the nomination? How does this go?
Yeah, you would need a second.
Hi, this is Maria. I'll second.
Great. Okay.
And then public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name in the participants panel and clicking on the outline of a hand that appears. No requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we vote on the entire slate or each one?
Each one.
Okay, great. So, Kathleen, you want to do a vote?
Yes, but my question is, who was the second, Dr. Manzi? You were the first. You were the movement.
Maria.
Maria did.
Okay, thank you. So in the motion to become president on January 1st, 2023, Dr. Manzi nominates Dr. McAloon, and the second is Ms. Cadenas. And here we go. Dr. Manzi?
Aye.
Ms. Elliott?
Aye.
Ms. Cadenas?
Aye.
Dr. McAloon?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Great. Okay, so now we need the vice president. Does anyone want?
Yes, same process.
Right. Okay. Would anyone like to make a nomination? Or even nominate yourself? Step right up. Okay, I see everyone's jumping at the chance. All right, so I make a motion to nominate Daniel Lee as vice president. Do I have a second?
McAloon, I will second that nomination.
Okay,
All right.
Should we open that for discussion?
And we'd also like Dr. Lee's
yeah, Dr. Lee.
comments about whether he would accept.
Yeah, yes, sorry. Daniel, you up for this?
Accept.
Thank you.
And then discussion.
Okay, do you want to open it for discussion?
Yes.
Please. Okay, I'm going to ask the moderator to open this for discussion.
Yes. Open it up for the Q&A for public comment. The instructions will be on the screen. If you would like to participate, click on that question mark inside of the square, type comments, send to all panelists. Raise your hand by hovering your cursor mouse over your name. I see no requests. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Please.
Thanks.
Okay, so shall we take a vote?
All right.
Yes.
Dr. Manzi?
Aye.
Ms. Elliott?
Aye.
Ms. Cadenas?
Aye.
Dr. McAloon?
Aye.
Dr. Lee?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. So that will be you, Dr. Lee, taking over on January 1st as vice president.
Okay, so next we have treasurer, correct?
It's secretary.
The secretary? Okay.
Mm.
How many officers, do we have 3 or 4 officers?
3.
3, okay. And I would, if Maria would like to continue being the secretary, I would nominate Maria, if she would be willing.
I accept the nomination.
I have a second.
McAloon will second that nomination.
Second.
Great. Okay, do we have any discussion? Okay, and I'd like the moderator to open it for participants.
Yes, the Q&A is open. Instructions will be on the screen. Simply click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment, and send it to all panelists. So raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name and clicking on the outline of a hand. No request. Would you like me to close the Q&A?
Please close the Q&A. Okay, and Kathleen, can you take a vote?
Yes. So the motion by Dr. Manzi, seconded by Dr. McAloon for Ms. Cadenas to remain in secretary position starting on January 1st. Judy Manzi?
Aye.
Darlene Elliott?
Aye.
Maria Cadenas?
Aye.
Carolyn McAloon?
Aye.
Daniel Lee?
Aye.
Unanimously passed.
Great. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, now in regards to the membership committees, if no one is opposed to this, I would recommend that we keep public education, licensing. Right now, these are the committee appointments for the current years. Public education is Darlene and Ms. Elliott, Dr. McAloon, and the licensing ones are Dr. McAloon and myself, Dr. Manzi. And is that right? Yeah, and the enforcement ones are Ms. Cadenas and Dr. Lee, and legislative is Dr. Lee, and executive management was myself and Ms. Elliott. So we could do this a couple ways. Is anyone looking at these past committee appointments that you've been on? Do you have strong feeling that you'd like to be on a different committee? And if so, this would be a really good time to tell me. Okay. Well, my suggestion would be everybody stay on the committee they're on, unless someone's dying to be on a different committee.
Judy, my only request is currently I'm assigned to 2 committees. If I could get knocked down to 1, that would be helpful.
That's
if I'm taking on more responsibilities.
So what we'll do is, why don't you do executive management, okay? Because that would be the one that would be a good one for you to do, I think. And we can take you off of licensing. And we can take you out of public education, and we'll just have to put somebody else in those spots. How's that sound? And I can take public education as well. It's fine. So I would do 2, and you could do just executive management.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? So Kathleen, do you have that? So public education will be Miss Elliott and myself, and licensing will be myself and myself, and enforcement would be Ms. Cadenas and Dr. Lee, and legislative is Dr. Lee, and executive management would be Dr. McAloon and Ms. Elliott.
All right, that sounds good. I believe those are appointments from the president. They're not really voted on. The new president appoints committee.
Okay, so Darlene, Carolyn, I just did your new appointments. So
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. I thought they were your appointments to make, but what?
I don't know. Brian, whose appointments are they? Mine or hers?
It's nice they're agreed upon and everybody is aware of it. So yeah.
Very collaborative board here. All right, great. So that's that. So do we need to vote on that?
No, they're appointments by the president, so they don't need to take it up.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, and discussion election. Okay. So that concludes that portion of it. We have now the calendar to look at for 2023, which is on page 84, if anyone's following along here today. And that's basically, as you all know, we set up the committee meetings about 3 weeks prior to our board meetings, and hopefully, we'll get these fixed as soon as we can. Brian, do you have any comments?
No comment. I'll let you guys discuss it. I think, what did we do last time? We did a January or a February meeting, our first one.
Okay.
Right. So
actually we did a March, June, October is what we did.
Was it March? That's our first one, was March? Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Okay, sorry, check that.
Yeah. I'm trying to zip through all this paper. Yeah, so
like
March
we had
would be
March, June, and October, right? March, June,
Yeah, that's
October.
what we did. That's what we did this year.
Great.
then October.
And I have another question to ask the group. This year we switched, we used to do it on Fridays and we switched to Thursdays. I'd like to find out how that works for everybody. My personal preference is back to Friday because of my own work schedule, but certainly, it is only 3 days out of the year that I can't go to that office, for this, for these meetings, but I'm only in that office once a week. So it's not a deal breaker, but I would like to have a conversation and perhaps moving them back to Friday or over to Wednesday. Thursday's not the best day for me, but it's only 3 meetings. I could make it work. And so I just wondered if anybody else had any other issues with Thursdays.
I don't have any issues with that. I think, though, if I might be mistaken here, but when we had these in person, people had to fly, you know what I mean? So we kind of, I think, put it near the weekends, and that's why. So if we want to try to do it during the week, that, a different day it works. I'm not opposed to that. As long as I have enough notice, as long as everyone, I think, has enough notice. It's up to Brian. Do you have anything to say about that?
Brian, are we staying on Zoom? Or we having some meetings in person? Do we have a sense of that piece?
Well, I think the extension lasts until the end of July, and
July
then they're
1st,
going to.
2023.
It's June 1st, 2023. Okay.
July.
And so they're going to try to work out the legislation, the bill, and they had some difficulties because that bill was dropped. They had some difficulties coming to a consensus. We're keeping track of everything. Most of all the boards, some boards like the in-person meetings, some of the boards like the virtual meetings, and the virtual meeting is definitely a cost savings to the board. And not only that, it's also for your professional life or personal life that you don't have to drive or fly, to Sacramento or LA or whatever. So I'll keep you guys posted as soon as we figure out what they're going to do with that bill.
On that note, I do support the virtual meeting scenario. I think it not only helps us with our busy schedule going back and forth, but also helps our staff. Sometimes we're sick or sometimes we have difficulty getting out of the office and so forth. So in many different ways, I think the virtual is helping us, but that's my input.
Right. And we did a letter of support for the virtual. So we'll just have to see what happens in the first cycle of legislation, see what they're going to do. But I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Okay, thank you. So are we picking our date for our next board meeting now, and will it be in March? That is the question.
Correct.
Okay, so let's take a look. Anybody know let's see what holidays are in March. And Carolyn, you'd like to try for a Thursday, yeah?
Well, my preference, I can keep it on Thursdays if that's the group's preference. I was also inquiring if Thursday was working for everybody versus moving it back to Friday.
Okay, well, here's the story in March. March 12th is daylight savings time. I know it's a Sunday. Not sure if anyone's that interested in that. The St. Patrick's Day is on the 17th, which happens to be a Friday. So I would propose, if we're going to look back 3 weeks to have committee meetings, right? So let's see, 2, 3.
And I'm a delegate to the APMA House of Delegates. So the weekend of the 17th, I am in Washington, D.C., and I'm not available for this group.
Okay, great. So March 9th is the Thursday, the week before that. Or do you think it would be more helpful to have this meeting after you get back from that delegation? I don't know.
I don't think the DC meeting is that relevant to this board's meeting.
Okay, great.
That I have to have one before the other. But so I'm not available, but I just wanted to share with the group that I'm not available the end of that week, the weekend of the 16th, 17th.
Right.
I'm not available because I have to go to DC for that House of Delegates meeting is off. So that's blocked on my calendar already.
Okay.
And then the following, and then the last weekend of March, I'm not available. But if we did March, I could do the 3rd or the 10th or I mean, the second or the third, the 9th or the 10th, or the 23rd, 24th. But the other 2 weeks, I'm not available.
Okay, so Brian, as far as the office in Sacramento goes, what's easier for your staff, later in the month, the earlier part of the month, or does it matter?
Probably the latter part of the month.
Okay, so I propose we either do the 23rd or the 24th. The 23rd is a Thursday, the 24th is a Friday.
Judy, just
Yeah.
really quick, I'm out of town that week, but
Okay, not do it. How about the 30th?
that will be fine. by
I
me.
can't do the 30th.
Okay, how about the earlier in the March then? You said you could do the 9th, Carolyn, yeah?
Yes, I can do the 9th. I can do that.
Okay, Brian, is that an okay thing to try then?
I won't be available on the 9th.
You're not? Okay. How about the 10th, which is Friday? No. Okay. You guys, you all have to retire.
Maria, can I ask you a question? Were you not available the 23rd or the 24th?
Yeah, it's my daughter's spring break, and so it's a family time.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's both days. I was just curious if it was the Thursday, Friday thing, or just that whole week. Okay.
And the 30th and 31st is out, right?
That's out for me. That's my break.
All right. So, and Daniel, you're not available the 9th or the 10th. Okay. How about if we try this then? Do we want to try to go to the very end of February instead of waiting for March? We could do the 23rd or the 24th. How's February 23rd for everybody? It's the last Thursday in February. Anybody see any conflicts?
I am available.
Okay. Well, I propose then try to meet on February 23rd, which is a Thursday.
That sounds good to me.
Brian,
Okay.
is that okay for your staff? Good, Daniel? Okay, great. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, that'd be fine. We'll just have to, let's push the committee meeting then would be
Like around the 2nd.
1, 2, 3. What about if we do the committee meetings in January? Well, that's like what, 4 weeks, right?
We could do February 2nd. Is that okay? Or what day do we do? Thursday, 3rd or something?
We usually do them on Wednesday.
Wednesday, so February 1st. How's that sound? Committee meetings on Wednesday the 1st, and the meeting would be on the 23rd. Is that enough time?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, this is not easy.
I'm gonna try to make it fit, but that's a surgical day for me.
Which one, the 1st or the 20th? The Wednesday?
February 1st.
Yeah, that's our trauma day too. But let's see. Brian, is there any way we can do it on a Tuesday? Or does that throw everybody off?
Yeah, Tuesday would work. Or
okay, great. So how about?
I mean, you can also go. Let's see, 1, 2. We can also push it back, just extend it out 1 more week, and do the committee meetings like the 25th in January.
Yeah, but see, Wednesdays are bad surgery days.
Oh,
for us.
Okay. Well, yeah, you can pick another day.
We're trying to pick Tuesday instead. So we can either do Tuesday, the 31st of January. That works for me. Does that work for everybody else? Anybody have?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Great.
Okay.
So Tuesday, the 31st of January will be the committee meetings, and the board meeting will be February, what did we just say? What's it?
23rd.
23rd, right? Is that right for everybody? Okay, great. All right, Carolyn, don't book anything that week. All right.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear.
So we got February 23rd for the board meeting. It's a Thursday.
Okay.
And Tuesday, January 31st for the committee meetings. Is that okay with everyone? It's okay. If it isn't, just let us know right now. Okay. And then that's the first one. And then what was the next one supposed to be like in June, did you say?
Yeah, June.
So, and then that Bill's gonna say yes or no by June, or June we would be meeting Zoom again, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, why don't we do this? Why don't we try to pick random, like June 20th, it happens to be, June 22nd is the June 15th is the third weekend, or June 22nd would be the fourth weekend in the month. Fourth
You have
Thursday.
to figure out when the Western is, because I won't
That's
be able
true.
to do this
That's
meeting
true.
during the Western.
That's
And I just, let me see, I don't know if I have that, we have that date yet for the Western.
We should have our meeting at the Western, and then we could have our table at the Western.
Well, I'm not opposed to that. The board has not had a presence at I've been the only presence at the Western on behalf of the board for the last few years, so I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I do too.
Now let me look in what the Western is. Let me see if I can find that.
It would just be the staff's flights and cost for hotels and all that.
But I could propose we could also consider doing training for our to wrap the training into that visit as well, to get more bang for our buck.
Mm-hmm.
If we're able to consider that option.
Honestly, if we could afford it, I think we should do, because we've saved a lot of money by doing all the Zooms. We always said we wanted a presence at the Western. This would be a really good thing for the board.
Okay.
So why don't we look into that? So why don't we kind of put June on hold right now? How's that? Until we figure out when the Western is and whether this is a feasible thing to do.
Okay.
Okay. And then possibly, as far as cost cuttings go and all that stuff, there's probably some savings involved with either partnering with the Western and let them know we're coming, or either, something like that. I don't know.
Okay, so the Western is June 22nd through 25th.
Okay, so that would be that tentative next board meeting. So then what we would need is a committee meeting, like the Thursday, June 1st would be the committee meetings.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that now you got June, then July, August. Then we'll again September or October. Well, this is October now, right? So
yeah, I think October was good.
Yeah. Okay. So October. Once again, we could do try for the committee meetings on Tuesday, October 3rd, and try for the board meeting on actually, why not Thursday, the 26th.
Can I make a request?
Okay, October 20th.
I'm out of town.
Can you repeat that, Judy?
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead, Maria. What were you going to say?
That first week of October, I'm out of town.
Okay. That's fine. You know what? Because I actually think we should push it back a little bit and have the board on the 19th and then of October. And then we could have our committee meetings in September, the end of like September 26th.
Okay.
It's a Tuesday. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Okay, and then Carolyn can do the rest of these board meetings, because I'm not doing.
And what date was the board meeting in October?
I was thinking we could do the 19th.
Okay.
It's the third week in October.
Okay.
Okay. And then is that enough, or do we need to keep going?
When was the committee meeting for that?
So the committee meeting for that one, Daniel, would be September 26th. It's a Tuesday. Yeah.
I think that's good. I think it's hard to go further than a year in advance with our calendars and not have to move stuff around later.
I agree, and I just couldn't be happier doing this as the president, the exiting president of 3 years. You guys are also sick of my bumbling through these meetings. But thank you very much. It's been a complete pleasure working with anyone. The next, does anyone have any more to say about our calendar? If not, I'm going to bring up one more thing here. Discussions for and actions. Oh, we did that. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything that we want to bring up for, the next meetings? Any new business?
The one thing that got on there, Judy, is discussion and action on setting PMBC strategic plan working group meeting date. And I know Elizabeth, she did a lot of work of doing environmental scans and setting all this stuff up, but we're definitely going to have to try to get this done. And if we do it before June, we could do it virtually.
Okay.
So,
this is a strategic plan working group meeting. This is a full board action, full board participation?
yes.
Okay. How long?
Because we need a quorum. We need a quorum. Definitely need a quorum.
And usually, is this an all-day thing, or how's this work?
It usually runs, I think the last one we did it takes a little chunk of time. I would say, you know, we start at 10 o'clock and we might be done by 4.
Okay. And this is going to be during the work week? During the week, yeah?
Yeah.
So, okay. Do you have any dates in mind?
Do I?
Yes.
Be the first, about January, sometime the first part of January.
Okay. So, you need a quorum. So you need everybody there.
Yeah, I need 4.
You need 4. Okay. Let's see. All right. Let's start looking at some dates. Is any day better than another? As soon as during the week, that is. We know we don't want to do Wednesdays, but you know, I'll ask the board. Is any one day? We know that Wednesdays are not a good day. Is there another day that people are pretty much, please don't do it on that day? Let's put it out there like that first.
I'd like to avoid Thursdays if possible, but it's not a deal breaker if that's the best day.
No Thursdays, no Wednesdays. Okay, so that's Monday, Tuesday, and Friday left. How opposed are people to a Friday? Carolyn, you're the one who works somewhere on a Friday, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with Fridays.
Okay.
In general.
The reason I bring up a Friday is maybe that would be a day that, you know, you basically wouldn't go to work and have to do this.
Right.
Or Monday, I guess. But I guess maybe Friday. Want to try for some Fridays? Okay, let's put some Fridays out there and see how they
Well,
feel.
let's say my preferences would be Monday or Friday.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know about anybody else that have a preference for Monday or Friday or one over the other.
So here are the Fridays, or here are the Fridays in January: 6, 13, 20, and 27. I can't do one of them. I actually can't do 2 of them. So either the 6th or the 20th. Anybody have any opposition to those 2?
I would prefer the 20th.
I would prefer the 20th.
Great.
Yeah, because the 6th is still the first week of holiday break and all that. So I would prefer the 20th as well.
That's good, and I'm good for the 20th. Daniel, how are you for the 20th?
Which month are we at?
January 20th. You probably already have your schedule.
We do.
I know. But they should be giving you admin
Can't
time.
do it that day.
Okay.
I'm already scheduled out.
I hope you're getting admin time for this, because my Kaiser gives me admin time for this. Okay, how about then we go to, okay, and then we have our meeting. We have our board meeting in February, right? Oh, March, no. Well, the end of February, we just did that.
February. The board meeting's in February.
February's aren't good. Okay, let's go back to January. Let's look at Mondays now, unfortunately. There's the 23rd of January. Anybody got big oppositions to that one? It's a Monday.
I could do that.
Okay.
I can't do it on a Monday.
Nope.
That Monday, yeah.
Okay, let's start with you. You can't, Daniel?
Yeah, the 23rd I won't be able to.
Okay, tell me a day in January you could do.
Let me see.
Just remember that, yeah. Tuesday, the 31st, we have committee meetings, by the way.
And January 16th, the Monday, is Martin Luther King Day, which I usually volunteer at. So,
okay.
Cross that off the list if we could.
Is January 9th too early in the month for people? It's a Monday.
No, I can't do it on the 9th. Interestingly, I can do it on the 16th.
Okay. Let's see, you need 4 members. Brian, you want to help me here? Can we do it in February?
Oh, we have our board meeting. The sooner the better.
The sooner the better, but it has to be done by June, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's my proposition. Since we're going to have a committee meeting in January, a board meeting in February, we don't have anything in March, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if we go into March? Because Daniel's schedule probably could be a little better rearranged. And I know you probably don't want to wait that long, but we could try a few dates in March. We have nothing scheduled for the board in March.
Right.
So let's go back to Fridays, everybody. You want to try that? So there's March 3rd, there's March 10th, there's March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, and there's the 24th, and there's the 31st. Anybody can't be on one of those Fridays.
Yeah, Magdalene cannot do the 17th or the 31st.
Okay.
And Cardenas can't do the 24th, right, because that's the one we already looked at.
Okay. So is the 3rd or the 10th available?
10th is good.
Daniel's good for the 3rd or the 10th. Which one, Daniel?
10th.
10th? Okay. Is everyone good for the 10th? Anybody not good for the 10th? Let's put it that way. Okay. I propose we shoot for March 10th. And put in your calendar an all-day board meeting of some sort. All right, and I think we should add that. And if there's any other changes we need, then we'll figure it out from there. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I know this is kind of painful. It is what it is.
And what did we decide in June?
We didn't. Oh.
We didn't.
Okay, we're just waiting, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, by the time we get to our February board meeting, then we can decide what we're going to do.
Well, I think so, but if we're thinking about doing it with the Western, everybody needs to know that that's the 23rd, the 25th to hold that.
Yeah, I think you should all save that date, because I think that by our next meeting, we need to have like a look and see at our finances, see if this is a possibility to do June 22nd to 25th, pick one of those days to have our board meeting in Southern California. If not, then we're going to need to pick a June date or another board meeting that will be virtual. Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I guess I would be asking this to Carolyn. During the meeting, when you're all obligated to do things on the big, House of Delegates opening and all that, do you have a suggestion for, would we do it the day before when you have your pre-meetings? Would we do it?
So the House of Delegates starts the day before the Western starts. The House of Delegates is on Wednesday. I would propose, what I've seen traditionally done is either Thursday or Friday of the Western.
So you all board members are free on those days. You're not pre-obligated to do things with CPMA.
Well, I'm not a board, so none of us on this board are on the CPMA board.
Okay. Sounds good. So it's probably going to be the 20th.
So the House, I would not do it at the time of House of Delegates because the that's on Wednesday before the Western, but to have people available for your booth and people perhaps, as Judy mentioned, or perhaps coming to training for expert or consultants, that's traditionally would be done on either Thursday or Friday. So I suppose that's the 2 days we'll be looking at for our stuff, either Thursday or Friday of the Western.
Okay, and we would keep our 10 a.m. That's a good time too, not, no conflicts.
Okay. Right, I would propose that, yeah.
Okay.
Kathleen, but just keep in mind that those who are attending our expert and consultant meetings, and if they're also signed up for the CMEs on that day, they'll have to choose. So they either are missing out on the CMEs and coming to the PBMC meeting, or they will elect not to come to PBMC because they need CMEs and they'll need to be present for the CME meeting. So we're actually asking them to choose.
Now, I've seen the medical board on a Saturday. I know we've never done that, but like that is just a vendor day, right? You have some CMEs, but mostly you're doing that on the weekdays. And then on that Saturday, people are free to roam more? Is that
not for us? We have that's not true for us. We have CMEs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, the CMEs can run all the way through the weekend.
But I don't want to say anything out loud, but I think people could swing both.
Okay, that's all I was.
I still think it's a better option. I still think it's a maximum chance of getting people to come to the training.
Okay.
No, because they're off of work that day already.
Now we can't pay. We can't pay. So if it's at a hotel and we want that room, I mean, I'm just bringing up. We have to have a non-charging spot.
Right, and then that's why we'd have to talk to Andrea and see, if they can get us in. There's some that'll all have to be inquired about and seen if if CPMA has anything. If CPMA has anything that they can assist us with in that regard.
So
I'm not speaking for them because I don't know if they do or not.
You're right. So someone needs to contact CPMA, and in our next meeting, I'd like a report. Well, we should report back as to whether or not this is going to happen, and if it's not going to, then we need to pick our June dates. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right.
That's all I got. Yeah.
So a motion to accept the executive officer's report. Do we need that, Brittany?
I don't know that I don't think a motion is required.
Okay.
If you want to, you can.
No, I mean, we voted on the things they decided, so it's fine. I guess it's just future items.
Did we lose Judy?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Get back.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was just wondering who can talk to CPMA about this, or whoever. How are we going to figure out whether or not we're going to have this meeting in June?
I just want to mention something really quick. This is the meeting where you guys have to approve all of the residency programs, and that would only give me that following week to do all the permits.
Okay.
So I just want to keep that in mind.
Oh no, that's a problem because each hospital needs that documentation before they can proceed with the new class.
Right.
Yeah.
Have we had problems with that historically when we cut it so close to July 1st? Is there historical data?
The meeting was usually the first Friday of June, so it gave me the following weeks to issue and renew all the permits. This year I had about 2 weeks.
That's a good point.
Of course.
So this one would be the shortest. If it's the 23rd, then there's only 1 week the following week to do all of that.
So was June 1st a problem for a board meeting, or did we go through that yet? June 1st or 8th?
Well, I have
No, we did not
circled
ask ourselves
here.
that question.
Yeah, that's our committee meeting, so we'd have to push our committee meeting to sometime in May.
Right? Is it
I'm okay
possible
with
that
June
we
1st.
can just do a special meeting for this?
What's that?
Is it possible just to do a special meeting, call a special meeting of the board?
An emergency
Just-
meeting? Yeah. Possible. I mean, Brittany, I've never done one. Is that possible?
The special meeting would be for what purpose?
Just to vote
Approve
to
the
approve
resident.
the applications.
I have to check, but I don't know that that's I don't know that that's one of the items that would qualify for a special meeting. And the special meeting, the only advantage there being that you don't have the 10-day notice period. So I don't know if you could. I think, Brian, you could set another meeting, be it
right.
the 10-day notice.
But
Okay.
this is under the licensing committee, right? Can the licensing committee approve it prior to the board meeting, or is that something that can be done?
We've always, since I've been here, we've always did a full board meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always been full board. Okay, I'm going to make a proposal that we tentatively schedule a board meeting for early June, and the whole thing on the Western can kind of be, if it can be put together and we find out more information, the logistics of it, we'll maybe switch things around. But I would propose that, just to be on the safe side, that you put a board meeting scheduled for the beginning of June.
So would that be June 2nd?
Yeah, or you can, if that's.
Well, I think the board meetings are still on Thursdays.
Thursday, so it'd be June 1st. Yeah, it would either be June 1st or the 8th.
1st or June 8th. Does anybody have a problem with either one of those days?
Okay, so I propose we do June 1st. And that way the committee meeting would be in May. It would be like 1, 2, 3. It'd be like Tuesday, the 16th of May. Okay, so Tuesday, May 16th committee, and Thursday, June. 1st would be. Did I say 1st or 8th? 1st, right?
1st, right?
1st would be the board. Okay, so let's get those dates on the calendar and send them out to everybody, and that would be great.
Okay.
All right.
June 16, I won't be available, but I can figure out something out with Brian if you need me for that.
But would you be around June? Okay.
You mean May 16th, Daniel?
June 16. I mean,
No,
May
so
16. May 16.
May 16th.
Okay. Yeah.
We were proposing committee meeting for that time, so
Yeah,
I won't be available.
we could work something out for that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, great. So there's the calendar. It's set. Now, full board meeting, and we have our strategic plan working group meeting date. Okay. Next, future agenda items. Anybody have one? Okay, if not, I just have a quick question. Maybe this should be from the board, but someone asked me to bring this up, so I'm going to bring it up. Is can you ask, or can we find out from CPMA what, if any, push there is to get podiatrists able to oversee physician assistants? I don't know what the history of this is in this, but we do get quite a few questions about, can a podiatrist oversee a physician assistant? And I'm not sure where this stands. If someone has more information about this and want to enlighten me.
I have a little bit of information. So this is both a statewide and a national agenda item.
Okay.
The national, so it is on the radar. Yes, it is something that the APMA and the CPMA are aware of that would be helpful and beneficial to many members. The difficulty is usually to get this kind of, it has to be legislative. because, and the PAs are not in favor of it. So it's been hard to get the legislation passed. Some states, a few states have gotten it passed, but on the national level and the California level, the PAs are not in support of. Here's the thing, they don't want to be supervised by anybody. So they don't want to take that. I mean, I'm just talking about from devil's advocate. They don't want to be supervised by everybody, right? These physicians extenders are trying to get more and more independent practice. Is their strategy, their goals. So it's getting difficult to get them to sign off on being supervised by us because we're anybody. Not only just specific that our specialty is a limited scope, but also that they don't want to take on more people being able to supervise them because they want to have a more independent practice. So that's the challenge in getting this done legislatively, which is how it has to be done, is they're not on board.
Got it.
So that's the challenge. That's the big challenge. But it is on the radar. There are talks from time to time, both nationally and on the statewide, how we might be able to achieve this. But that's the obstacle in achieving it.
Okay. So when you say it's on the radar, it's CPMA.
It's a topic of conversation at meetings. CPMA and CMA talk about it. How can we work? But at the end of the day, the physician's assistants are not interested in coming forward with a bill to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why it's hard to get it passed.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
If I could add to that, is also part of their bylaws, and it's a very historical bylaw where is restricted to MDs and DOs for supervision. And in many states, podiatry is not under physicians and surgeon status. So we have some hurdles with that, and that they are following their bylaws.
Thank you. Because we do get quite a few requests for that information. I never know how to answer it. All right. So anybody else have anything else they want to bring up for the next future agenda item? Do we bring that up to the participants as well or not? Do we open that?
Yes, I think it's appropriate to open up for public comment.
So could you please open this for public comment?
This is the moderator. I'm opening up for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the question mark inside of the square, type comment in the text field, and send it to all panelists. You can also raise your hand by hovering your cursor or mouse over your name in the participants panel. And once that outline of a hand appears, click on that. The instructions are on the screen for your reference. Board President, I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm getting ready to adjourn this meeting. It's been a pleasure being your president for 3 years, and I'm so looking forward to handing over the gavel. If I had one, I'd be pounding it right now. But seriously, it's been a pleasure, and I am ready to adjourn this meeting.
Judy, thank you for your excellent service very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.
It's been
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Thank you, Judy.
All right, guys, have a great day. It's still sunny out there, so maybe you can catch a little of it. My pleasure. All right, bye-bye. I'm going to adjourn.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.